Hello and welcome. You ever stop and think about how a live broadcast, radio, TV, actually gets to you? It seems to happen instantly. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and trace that signal's incredible journey, all the way from the studio to your screen. Let's dive in. Oh, and just a quick heads up. This explainer is part 37 of a 40-part series all about modern broadcast transmission, and it's brought to you by Virtualization Options LLC. All right, let's get into it. I mean, it really does feel like magic, doesn't it? You turn on the radio for the morning traffic, you tune into a live game, and it's just there, instantly. So how does that happen? That instantaneous connection is exactly what we're breaking down today. What's so cool about all this is that we're not just talking about giant vacuum tubes and analog dials anymore. Now, broadcasting today is this high-tech fusion of classic radio frequency engineering and the kind of IT you'd find in a modern data center. It's pretty wild. We can really break this whole journey down into 4 main stages. First, you've got to create the signal itself. Then you have to make it way louder, amplify it. After that, you radiate it out into the world. And kind of tying this all together is this powerful new digital layer that has completely changed the game. So let's start right at the beginning, the spark. Every single broadcast, doesn't matter if it's AM, FM, or TV, it all starts its life as a tiny, incredibly precise electronic signal. In this little thing right here, this is where it all happens. This board is called an exciter, and it is the brain of the entire operation. So say goodbye to those bulky analog circuits of the past. The heart of a modern transmitter is pure digital tech that you can literally hold in your hand. So how does it work? Well, modern exciters use a technique called direct digital synthesis, or DDS. Instead of using physical analog parts to create a wave, the exciter literally computes the broadcast signal. It creates it mathematically with digital signal processing. It's pretty much the same way your computer generates sound for a video game or renders the graphics on your screen. It's all just math. Okay, so we've got our perfect digitally crafted signal. But there's a problem. It is incredibly weak. We're talking just a few watts of power. To reach a whole city, that little signal needs a giant megaphone. It needs a massive power boost. For decades, this job was handled by massive, high-voltage vacuum tubes. And sure, they were powerful, but they were super inefficient and a real pain to maintain. But today, we use solid-state amplifiers. They're smaller, they're safer, they're way more efficient, and they operate on principles that, honestly, anyone with an IT background would recognize in a heartbeat. And this is where you really see the advantages. These modern amps are built with hot, swappable modules, just like blade servers in a data center. So if one fails, you just pull it out, pop in a new one, and you never have to shut anything down. There are no dangerous high voltages to worry about, and they're incredibly reliable. And maybe the best part is something called graceful degradation. That means if one little module fails, the transmitter doesn't just go off air. Nope, it just keeps on broadcasting at a slightly lower power. All right, our signal has been created digitally, and it's been amplified into an absolute powerhouse. Now it's time for the final physical step, launching it into the air. This is the antenna's giant leap. And the kind of antenna you need completely depends on the signal's frequency. So for AM radio, which uses very long waves, you need these gigantic towers. We're talking hundreds of feet tall, where the tower is the antenna. But then you look at FM and TV. They use much shorter wavelengths, and that allows for these more compact, kind of complex-looking antenna arrays that you see just mounted on the side of towers. But with AM radio, there's this super critical piece of the puzzle you can't even see. The source material points this out, and it's fascinating. The ground system, which is this huge network of copper wires buried underground, is the most critical part of the whole antenna setup. It's what makes everything work efficiently, but because you can't see it, it's often the most neglected part. So we've walked through the physical journey. But the biggest revolution in broadcasting lately hasn't really been in the hardware. It's been in the software and the networking that controls it all. This is broadcasting's complete IT makeover. And here is all the proof you need. Just look at the back of this modern piece of broadcast gear. Forget all those old proprietary connectors. What do you see? You see Ethernet ports, the exact same kind you have on your computer or your home router. This is literally 2 worlds converging. And man, this transition happened fast. Back in 2002, the FCC gave a green light to digital HD radio. By 2009, all analog TV in the US was just shut off. And since 2017,
we've been rolling out something called ATSC 3.0. This next-gen TV standard that's built from the ground up on Internet Protocol. It's what allows for things like 4K video right over the air. So what does all this IT convergence actually mean for the engineers who run this stuff? Well, it means they can control a transmitter that's 100 miles away just by using a web browser. They can use standard IT monitoring tools, send their audio over IP networks, build in modern cybersecurity, and even manage entire facilities from the cloud. So really, the crucial point, the big takeaway here, is this. When you look at the modular hardware, the IP networking, the remote management, a modern broadcast facility is basically becoming a data center. It has a lot more in common with a Google server farm than with the broadcast sites of the past. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We've seen signal creation, amplification, and all the control systems move into this digital, networked world. So as this trend continues, as broadcasting becomes fully IP-based, what's to stop the broadcast tower itself from just becoming another service in the cloud? Something to think about.